Hey guys, Kevin here in Japan. Really interesting. I've been listening to the Mully's Place podcast, most recent episode, and Mully and Dave are talking about long-term expats living in Japan and language learning, and is there such a thing as long-term expats in a place like Japan or Korea? I lived in Korea, who don't speak the language, don't learn the language, and I'm kind of almost just repeating things that they've said in the podcast. And by the way, the link is below. If you're interested in Japan, the Mully's Place podcast is wonderful because the co-hosts, Mully and Dave, they've both lived in Japan for like 23 years. They know their stuff. So Mully's very fluent, or pretty fluent in Japanese. Dave, not so much. I'm in the not so much category. No, I've only been living in Japan for about 6 years. Nothing like those guys. It was very interesting. So you might ask, how is it possible that someone can come to a country like Japan and live here for 6 years or 20 years and not be very fluent in the language? And honestly, I guess depending on where you live, depending on your situation, you don't have to be. You can learn a very kind of minimum amount of phrases and terms and kind of grammatical structures and language structures, and really kind of get by on that. You learn your greetings, you learn your goodbyes, you learn to ask some questions like, where is blah blah blah, how much is blah blah blah. You learn how to count money, you learn this, you learn that, you learn some verbs and adjectives, and pretty soon you can understand a lot of what people are saying and kind of fumble your way through things. And also, if you are in a like a language teaching environment like many people are here, that's another way. It's very easy to not learn Japanese, because a lot of schools, if you're teaching English like at an English school like an eikaiwa, you're often told you're not allowed to speak. English. If you're teaching like at an international school, maybe all of your students are not Japanese, so therefore why would you use Japanese, right? But often in teaching situations, you're told, like it's like a company policy, you're not allowed to use Japanese. So for example, maybe you wake up in the morning, you're at home by yourself, you're getting ready for work, and you get on the train, you got your earbuds in, you're listening to a podcast with some music, you're reading a book, you're not speaking Japanese. You get to work, you're at work all day, you're not allowed to use Japanese. Then you come home. A lot of foreigners, who are single, tend to hang out with other foreigners. That's very common. Like 95% of foreigners or more probably most of the time hang out with other foreigners after work or this or that. So then you're going to like a gaijin bar or like an expat bar, and you're hanging out with other foreigners and you're speaking English. They made a really good point. Often, people will think, well, the best way to learn the language is to get a local boyfriend or girlfriend. You're in Japan, get a Japanese boyfriend or girlfriend. You're in Korea, get a Korean boyfriend or girlfriend. That doesn't work at all, and I can attest to that from both countries' experience, because your partner is probably going to want to practice their English, and more than likely you're going to be speaking English more than Korean or Japanese. So yeah, it is pretty common. I think probably the majority of foreigners in a country like Korea or Japan who come here don't learn the language, at least not very well. Very few tend to be fluent. And then they mentioned, Dave and Mully mentioned one thing about there's a certain ilk of foreigners who are fluent, who are kind of like uppity about it. They're like they look down upon foreigners who don't speak well, who don't speak the language well, and those people don't have time for people like that. People who think they're better than you because they speak a language better are not worth being around, because they're pretty shallow people who are probably have pretty hollow inside. It kind of reminds me of high school. I used to lift a lot of weights in high school and in university. Well, no, not university. High school and after university. I used to be really big into weightlifting, and guys used to come up to you when you're in high school and be like, hey man, how much can you bench? It was kind of like a judge of of how strong you are or, as a person, who you were as a person. How much can you bench and what's your military press? Well, that's what I kind of look at that or compare to when you get some guy who's like a foreigner or girl who's like, how much Japanese do you know? How many kanji do you know? Well, it's the same thing. It's like, how much do you bench? You know, as people, we are complicated beings. We are good at many things. We do many things. And your language ability, that's just one little thing, one element of who you are. But yeah, so it is very possible for a person to come to a country like Japan, to live here and not speak any language. And it's kind of, again, I'm referring to the Mully's Place podcast. The link is below to the Mully's Place podcast. It's an awesome podcast. You don't need to speak Japanese before you come here. You don't need to learn how to speak Japanese before you come to Japan. But Dave, the co-host, makes a very good point. If you really want to learn Japanese, strike fast. Start learning immediately upon arriving, because it's those of us who procrastinate who tend to not learn very well. Yeah, so there you go. Hey guys, Kevin in Japan. Check out links below. Link to the Mully's Place podcast. Also a link to my podcast, the Just Japan podcast. Everything you want to know about Japan. It's right down there. You can subscribe on iTunes, listen to Stitcher Radio, listen in your web browser. Links are below. Hey, if you're into Japan, check it out. Okay, later guys, Kevin in Japan, here on the jlandkev channel. Don't worry, by the way, in time, some stuff is going to be coming up on the Busan Kevin channel, if you're wondering. Still, wait, not there yet. Alright, take care guys.